I can tell you what anything is worth, down to the penny. Those famous words made Rick Harrison millions, while his family life collapsed in silence. Today we expose the devastating secrets his ex-wife never shared on camera, the scripted reality show that fooled America, and the heartbreaking death that brings his entire empire into question. What Pawn Stars never showed you will leave you speechless. The Rick Harrison you thought you knew. He never existed. Behind the counter of the world's most famous pawn shop stands a man whose life story is more valuable and more tragic than any artifact he's ever appraised. For 15 years Rick Harrison invited us into his Las Vegas gold mine, becoming America's favorite negotiator. But while cameras captured million-dollar deals and historical treasures, they missed the empire crumbling behind the scenes. A son lost to addiction. 3 marriages shattered, and explosive allegations that the reality show that made him famous was built on carefully constructed lies. This isn't just another celebrity exposé, it's a warning about the true price of American fame. Before the cameras, before the tourists, before the millions, there was just Rick, a frightened kid from North Carolina battling seizures that could strike at any moment. Epilepsy didn't just shape young Rick's childhood, it transformed him. Confined indoors while other children played, he devoured books obsessively, unknowingly preparing for the encyclopedic knowledge that would one day make him a star. Las Vegas in 1981 wasn't the glittering tourist paradise we know today. When the Harrison family arrived, they found a city of desperate gamblers and broken dreams, the perfect training ground for a future pawnbroker. Rick watched, learned and waited for his chance. That chance came in 1989, when father and son scraped together $10,000 to open the gold and silver pawn shop in a forgotten corner of Sin City. They didn't know it yet, but they'd just placed the highest stakes bet of their lives. For 20 years the pawn shop operated in shadows, serving the underbelly of Las Vegas, that tourists never see, desperate locals pawning wedding rings to pay rent, gamblers trading watches for one last shot at the tables. This wasn't the sanitized history lesson version viewers would later see on TV, it was raw capitalism. At its most brutal, and Rick thrived in it. Then came the call that changed everything. History Channel producers didn't just see a pawn shop, they saw television gold. But there was a problem. Real pawn shops are depressing places filled with heartbreaking stories that wouldn't sell. So began the great transformation, the creation of Rick Harrison, television personality. The shocking truth: nearly every transaction you've seen on Pawn Stars was carefully staged. Scripters hovered off camera, feeding lines to both Rick and customers. Those interesting sellers with unique items. Many were actors. The negotiations, often predetermined. The spontaneous historical lessons, rehearsed multiple times. And perhaps most stunning of all, 99% of people entering the store were tourists hoping to glimpse a celebrity, not actual customers with items to sell. The authentic pawn shop experience Americans thought they were watching was in many ways as fake as the counterfeit coins Rick so expertly identified on camera. July 21, 2013. Laguna Beach, California. Under perfect blue skies, Rick Harrison married for the 3rd time. Guests described the beaming groom as transformed, a man who had finally found his perfect match in legal secretary Deanna. Celebrity magazines splashed the photos everywhere. America's favorite pawnbroker had found true love at last. What those glossy photos didn't reveal. According to Deanna's explosive 2025 revelations, their marriage was essentially dead on arrival. While publicly professing love, Rick was privately consumed by an addiction more powerful than any drug, fame itself. Living with Rick wasn't like having a husband, Deanna revealed in a devastating podcast interview. It was like being married to a brand. The real man disappeared the moment cameras stopped rolling. I never knew which Rick I was getting, the warm, charming man America loved, or the calculating businessman obsessed with his image. The details Deanna shared paint a disturbing portrait of life with a reality TV star. Rick allegedly tracked all household spending through an app on his phone, questioning every purchase Deanna made. When they traveled, she claims he insisted on separate hotel rooms, not for privacy, but so his pre-dawn filming schedule wouldn't disturb her. It seemed considerate, she said, until I realized he just didn't want me around during his real life. Most shocking were her claims about controlled public appearances. Rick had rules about how I should dress, what I could say in public. Once I gave a brief interview to a local magazine about my charity work. He was furious, said I was diluting the brand. That's when I realized I wasn't his wife. I was a potential liability to Rick Harrison Inc. By 2020, the marriage had collapsed completely. While fans speculated about reasons, both parties initially remained silent. Then came the internet's wildest theory, an unfounded claim that Rick's marriage ended because of an alleged affair with Donald Trump. This absurd assertion found zero support in credible reporting, yet it spread like wildfire online, demonstrating how easily celebrity gossip can spiral into bizarre conspiracy theories. The reality, according to those closest to the situation, was far more mundane yet ultimately more tragic. A man so consumed by maintaining his public image, that he lost the ability to sustain real human connection. As Deanna put it, Rick knew the value of everything in his shop down to the penny. But he never understood the value of what was waiting for him at home. January 19, 2025. Rick Harrison's phone rings at 3:17 a.m. On the other end, a police officer delivers the news every parent dreads: his son Adam is dead at 39, another victim of America's merciless fentanyl epidemic. For all his expertise in American history, Rick couldn't have known he was about to become part of a tragic national statistic. One of the thousands of American parents burying children claimed by synthetic opioids each year. Rick's public grief was raw and unfiltered. "Addiction turned my son into someone else," he wrote in a heart-wrenching Instagram post that garnered over 2 million sympathetic responses. "The person who died wasn't the Adam I raised." Within days, the pawnbroker known for stoic negotiating transformed into a passionate advocate against the fentanyl crisis. At press conferences, his voice shaking with emotion, he demanded stronger border security and better addiction resources. "My son isn't coming back," he told a stunned room of reporters, "but maybe yours doesn't have to die too." This new activist role received polarized responses. Supporters praised his courage in transforming personal tragedy into public purpose. Critics, however, questioned where this passion had been before tragedy struck his own family, noting his previous silence on drug policy issues, despite Las Vegas's well-documented addiction crisis. The most uncomfortable questions centered on Rick's relationship with Adam before his death. Unlike Corey Big Hoss Harrison, who became a star alongside his father, Adam remained conspicuously absent from Pawn Stars. Former shop employees, speaking anonymously, described a strained father-son relationship dating back years. Rick tried reaching out many times, one source claimed, but by then the damage was done. You can't be absent for Hollywood events and business expansions, then suddenly become father of the year when troubles start. In his devastating interview with Graham Bensinger, Rick broke down completely when asked if he regretted his choices as a father. "I replay every moment," he confessed, tears streaming down his face in a vulnerability never witnessed on Pawn Stars. "Every time I chose a filming schedule over a baseball game. Every call I didn't return because I was too busy. You tell yourself it's all for them, that you're building something they'll inherit. Then suddenly they're gone, and you realize none of it mattered." This raw confession revealed the ultimate irony. The man who built an empire, assessing other people's treasures, had failed to recognize the irreplaceable value of what he already possessed. Just 73 days after burying his son, Rick Harrison stunned followers by announcing his engagement to Angie Polushkin. The Instagram post, featuring a beaming couple and a massive diamond ring, ignited immediate controversy. "This doesn't mean I've stopped grieving Adam," Rick defensively told reporters questioning the timing. "Life goes on, even through pain," but the hasty announcement left many wondering, was this genuine love, or a desperate attempt to escape overwhelming grief? Those closest to Rick describe a man desperately trying to rewrite his life's third act. The gold and silver pawn shop, once his pride, now stands as a peculiar monument, part actual business, part tourist trap, where visitors pay $1,000 for the privilege of being filmed selling items they never actually part with. His newfound anti-fentanyl advocacy has garnered congressional attention, with Rick testifying before Senate committees about America's border security. Critics note the convenient political alignment with his long-held conservative views, while supporters argue that genuine tragedy transcends partisan politics. Former co-workers reveal Rick has become almost obsessive about legacy building, repeatedly rewriting his autobiography and establishing multiple charitable foundations in rapid succession. "It's like watching someone frantically erect monuments before the tide comes in," one former producer observed. "He's desperate to be remembered for something more meaningful than haggling over vintage toys." The pawn shop itself has transformed into something unrecognizable to old-time Vegas locals, a gift shop selling Pawn Stars merchandise, where actual pawning has become secondary. On busy days, the line of tourists stretches around the block, each visitor hoping to capture a piece of reality TV magic that was largely manufactured from the start. Perhaps most telling is Rick's relationship with his surviving son, Corey. Once his on-screen protege, Corey has gradually distanced himself from both the shop and the show, establishing independent business ventures. Sources close to the family describe their current relationship as cordial but cautious, a father and son connected more by business interests than emotional bonds. As Rick approaches his 60s, the question becomes not what his collections are worth, but whether he can salvage what truly matters before time runs out. Rick Harrison's story is quintessentially American, a self-made man who transformed an unseemly business into family-friendly entertainment through sheer force of personality. Yet his journey also reveals the darkest aspects of fame: relationships sacrificed on ambition's altar, authenticity compromised for ratings, and the hollow victory of achieving everything you wanted only to discover you were chasing the wrong dream all along. The pawn business operates on a simple premise: people surrender something precious for immediate gain, hoping to eventually reclaim it. In many ways, Rick Harrison did the same with his personal life, trading authentic relationships for fame's immediate rewards, always believing he could somehow redeem what was lost later. As Las Vegas continues reinventing itself, so too does the man who became one of its unlikely icons. Whether Rick Harrison can reconcile the character he played on television with the complicated human being he truly is, remains to be seen. But his journey offers a haunting reminder that in life's final accounting, our worth isn't measured by the treasures we've collected, but by the connections we've maintained. When the cameras stop rolling and the tourists disappear, Rick Harrison returns to a pawn shop filled with priceless treasures, and emptied of what he once valued most: his son's future, his marriage's potential, and perhaps pieces of his authentic self traded away for 15 seasons of fame. Before you envy his empire, ask yourself, would you make the same deal? And if you already have, is there still time to buy back what you've pawned away? Subscribe now, because some revelations are too shocking to miss, and some lessons too valuable to ignore.